You're not losing them. You're forcing their real self to show up. Boundary number one is simple, but it hits harder than anything else you've tried. Stop chasing the maybe, because that's what the avoidant is addicted to. Not you, not your love, not your presence. The potential of you. They don't want a real relationship. They want the thrill of the excitement of having you close enough to feel, but far enough to never actually commit. That's their comfort zone. That's their drug, and you've been unknowingly feeding it. So here's the truth. You have to stop giving them the fantasy. Stop being the maybe. Stop being the option. Stop being the person who waits, the one who stays available, the one who keeps believing in a future that keeps getting pushed farther away. Because the avoidant thrives on the chase. They don't need you to be present to feel powerful. They need your attention to feel alive. And when you keep chasing, you're handing them the power you deserve to keep. Stop texting first. Stop reaching out. Stop filling their silence with your explanations. Stop begging for clarity like you're asking for permission to exist. You don't owe them an emotional report. You don't owe them your calm, your patience, your constant reassurance. If they wanted a relationship, they would show up. If they wanted you, they would stop making you prove yourself. You are not the problem. Their avoidance is. And here's the biggest shift you need to understand. When you stop chasing, something changes. The energy changes. The dynamic changes. Suddenly, you're no longer the one who needs them. You become the one they need to understand. The avoidant senses it immediately, because their entire identity depends on controlling the distance. When you stop trying to close that distance, they feel the loss of control, and it scares them. So what happens? There are only two outcomes. They either chase you, or they reveal they never intended to. That's it. There is no third option. And you have to accept that. You have to stop hoping for a middle ground, because avoidants don't operate in middle ground. They operate in extremes: closeness, then withdrawal, connection, then disappearance, warmth, then cold. You don't get stability with an avoidant. You get a roller coaster that always ends with you feeling like you're the one begging for the ride. And this boundary is not about punishing them. It's not about making them jealous. It's not about playing games. It's about protecting your worth. It's about saying, I will not be the person you use when you're lonely and ignore when you're comfortable. Because that's what the avoidant does. They don't want to be caught. They don't want to be seen. They want to stay safe in their emotional bubble while still enjoying the benefits of your love. When you stop chasing, you begin to watch the avoidant's true colors appear. Their real self comes out. The part of them that doesn't want to be seen. The part that doesn't want to be vulnerable. The part that has no interest in building something real. You'll see how quickly they become distant, how they find excuses, how they start making you feel like you're too intense, too much, too demanding. That's their defense mechanism. That's how they try to convince you that the problem is you, so they don't have to face the fact that they're the one avoid. And if they do chase you, if they start showing up, if they begin making an effort, if they start closing the distance, then you've won. Not because you made them love you, but because you made them show up. You forced them to choose. You forced them to either step into the relationship or step out of it. That's what boundaries do. They reveal the truth. They cut through the illusion. And the avoidant cannot handle truth without reacting. So don't be afraid to stop chasing. Don't be afraid to withdraw your energy, because your energy is your power. And once you stop feeding the avoidance addiction to maybe, you either watch them step up, or you finally see them step out, and you realize you were never losing them. You were simply refusing to stay in a relationship that never wanted to exist. If they treat you like a backup plan, you become the main event. That's the truth most avoidants don't want you to realize. They don't want you to see the power you hold. They want you waiting, because waiting makes you smaller. Waiting makes you dependent. Waiting makes you forget who you are. Avoidants love being the mysterious one. They love the control of making you chase. They want you to wait like a dog. And when you finally stop waiting, when you finally stop being available on demand, they don't know how to handle it, because their power comes from your uncertainty. Boundary number 2 is simple, but it's lethal to the avoidance strategy. No more, I'm available whenever you are. You don't have a schedule that revolves around their mood. You don't have a life that pauses when they disappear. You don't exist to be their emotional convenience. The moment you stop being available, the dynamic changes. You stop being the person who sits by the phone, hoping for a text. You stop being the person who rearranges your whole life to fit their unpredictable schedule. You stop being the person who lowers their standards just so the avoidant feels comfortable. Because here's the thing, avoidants aren't afraid of commitment. They're afraid of being caught. They're afraid of being seen. They're afraid of being known. That's why they disappear. That's why they pull away. That's why they keep you at a distance. They want you to think they're special, but only in the way that keeps them safe. They want you to worship the idea of them, without ever getting to know the real person underneath. And when you stop feeding that illusion, when you stop waiting for them to show up, they feel threatened. You set a clear schedule. You decide when you are available. You decide when you are not. You live your life like you are already free, because you are. You don't need them to validate your existence. You don't need them to feel whole. You don't need them to feel worthy. You already are, and that's the problem for them. Avoidants thrive on your neediness. They thrive on your emotional hunger. They love it when you're the one who adjusts, who sacrifices, who bends. They love it when you prove you'll be there no matter what, because that makes them feel powerful. It makes them feel in control. It makes them feel like they can disappear and return whenever they want without consequences. But when you stop being available, when you stop waiting like a dog, you become the main event. Suddenly, you're not chasing. Suddenly, you're not begging. Suddenly, you're not desperate. Suddenly, you're the prize. And that shift terrifies the avoidant, because they don't know how to win in a relationship where the other person has standards. They don't know how to be the partner in a relationship where the other person has boundaries. They only know how to be the escape, the withdrawal, the disappearance, the person who keeps you hanging on a thread. And you have to understand this. The avoidant's entire identity depends on your uncertainty. Their confidence depends on your willingness to tolerate their distance. Their sense of control depends on you accepting the second-best version of. When you finally stop doing that, you disrupt their whole world. You force them to confront something they've been avoiding their whole life: real intimacy, real commitment, real responsibility, real consequences. So you don't wait. You don't pause your life. You don't make excuses for them. You don't justify their behavior. You don't soften the truth to make it easier to swallow. You show up for yourself. You show up like you matter, because you do. And the avoidant can't stand it. Then comes the next truth. You don't need them to respect you. You need them to fear losing you. That's the real power. Respect is nice, but fear is effective. Fear is what makes them stop and think. Fear is what makes them question their behavior. Fear is what makes them realize that you are not just another option. Fear is what makes them understand that you have a life outside of them. Fear is what makes them realize they might lose something valuable if they keep running. Boundary number 3 is not about being cold. It's not about being cruel. It's about realizing that emotional distance is not loyalty. Avoidants confuse space with control. They think that the more distant they are, the more they are in charge. They think that if they keep you at arm's length, they can avoid getting hurt. They think that if they keep you guessing, they can avoid responsibility. But here's the truth. Space without connection is just avoidance. And avoidance is not love. Avoidance is not respect. Avoidance is not commitment. Avoidance is fear. So you give them space, but you don't give them silence. You don't disappear and wait for them to come back. You don't sit quietly and hope they notice you. You don't punish them by becoming invisible. You don't play the game, because the avoidant wants the game. They want the drama. They want the chase. They want the emotional roller coaster. They want to know that you will always be there, even when they are not. They want you to prove your loyalty through your silence. They want you to suffer quietly, because that makes them feel safe. But you don't do that. You speak your truth without apology. You say what you want clearly. You don't hide your needs. You don't pretend you're fine when you're not. You don't allow them to twist your words into something they can use against you. You don't allow them to make you feel like you're too much, because you're not here to be easy. You're here to be non-negotiable. When you speak your truth, the avoidant will try to label you as dramatic. They will call you intense. They will say you're too sensitive. They will say you're asking for too much. That's their defense. That's how they avoid accountability. They take your clarity and they turn it into your fault. They take your boundaries and they turn it into your weakness. They take your needs and they make them seem unreasonable. But you have to see through it. Because it's not about what you're asking for. It's about their fear of being seen. The avoidant's biggest fear is not losing you. Their biggest fear is being caught. Being caught means being known. Being known means being vulnerable. Being vulnerable means being human. And being human means you can be hurt, and avoidants don't like being hurt. So they run, they withdraw, they distance, they disappear. They make you feel like you're the one who is too much, when in reality they are the one who is too scared. And this is why boundary number 3 is so important, because emotional distance is not loyalty. It is not a sign of maturity. It is not a sign of strength. It is a sign of fear. And you are not here to comfort someone's fear at the cost of your own peace. You are not here to be the emotional safety net for someone who refuses to show up. You are not here to make their life easier while your own life collapses. You are here to live. You are here to be seen. You are here to be loved. And if they can't give you that, then they don't get to keep you. When you speak your truth, you show the avoidant that you are not a victim. You show them that you have standards. You show them that you have a life outside of their approval. And that is when the dynamic shifts. That is when they start to feel something they've never felt before. Consequence. They start to feel the pressure of losing you. They start to realize that you are not a guarantee. You are not a backup. You are not an option. You are a choice. And choices are powerful. So you give them space, but you don't give them silence. You keep living. You keep thriving. You keep building your life. You keep showing up for yourself. You keep moving forward. And when you speak your truth, you don't beg. You don't plead. You don't justify. You simply say what you need, and you hold your ground, because the avoidant will try to push you into a corner. They will try to make you feel guilty for having boundaries. They will try to make you feel like you are the problem. But you are not the problem. The problem is the avoidant's refusal to be emotionally present. And when they can't handle that, they will either step up or step out. That's the reality. They will either show up with a new level of commitment, a new level of clarity, a new level of respect, or they will retreat. They will disappear. They will find a reason to avoid. They will make up excuses. They will tell you they need space. They will tell you they're not ready. They will tell you they don't want to hurt you. But you already know the truth. You already know what their avoidance really means. You already know that they don't want to be seen, and you don't need someone who doesn't want to be seen with you. You deserve someone who chooses you, not someone who tolerates you, not someone who uses you, not someone who keeps you at a distance while expecting you to stay loyal. You deserve someone who shows up. You deserve someone who is willing to face their fear and still choose you. You deserve someone who doesn't treat you like a backup plan. You deserve someone who sees you as the main event. And if the avoidant can't give you that, then it's not your job to convince them. It's your job to walk away and protect your energy. Because here's the final truth. Avoidants will only step up when they feel the consequences of their absence. They will only step up when they realize you are not waiting. They will only step up when they feel the fear of losing you. And if they don't step up, then they step out. And that's not a loss. That's a revelation. It's proof that you were never meant to stay in a relationship where you had to fight for the love you deserved. It's proof that you are stronger than their avoidance. It's proof that your boundaries are not too much. They are necessary. So stop being available whenever they want. Stop waiting. Stop pausing your life. Stop making excuses. Stop tolerating distance. Stop accepting silence as loyalty. Speak your truth. Live your life. Protect your energy. And watch the avoidant either step up or step out. Because either way, you win. You win because you no longer accept anything less than what you deserve. When they start testing you, that's when you start winning. Because tests are their favorite way of seeing if you're still theirs. Avoidants love to push boundaries just to see how far they can go. They disappear, they ghost, they vanish into thin air, and then they wait to see if you'll chase. They wait to see if you'll beg. They wait to see if you'll lower your standards just to get a little bit of attention. They test your loyalty because they want to know if you're still emotionally attached, still willing to tolerate their absence, still willing to accept their excuses. Avoidants run. They run when things get real. They run when things get intimate. They run when you start to see them as more than a fantasy. They run when you start to expect consistency. And they run because they're terrified of losing their independence. They're terrified of being trapped. They're terrified of being seen. So they disappear. They vanish into thin air, and you're left begging for a breadcrumb. You're left staring at your phone, refreshing messages, replaying conversations, trying to figure out what you did wrong. You start to doubt yourself. You start to feel like you're too much, like you're too needy, like you're the problem. Not anymore. Not after you set boundary number 4. Because when they disappear, you disappear too. When they go silent, you go silent on purpose. You don't react. You don't chase. You don't explain. You don't give them the satisfaction of watching you crumble. You don't give them the power of knowing they can control your emotions with their absence. You let the silence speak for you. You let the silence do the talking. You let the silence reveal what they really are. This is the moment where the avoidance strategy falls apart, because they expect you to chase, they expect you to beg, they expect you to apologize for wanting them, they expect you to make excuses for their behavior, they expect you to prove your love, but you don't. You don't prove anything, you don't beg, you don't plead, you don't give them another chance to hurt you. You stay silent, you stay strong, you stay in control. And the silence is the test. The silence is the boundary. The silence is the message. You're not saying, I'm angry. You're not saying, I'm punishing you. You're saying, I will not be treated like this. You're saying, I am not here to chase you. You're saying, I have a life. I have standards. I have self-respect. You're saying, if you want me, you come back with a new energy. If you don't, then you don't. And if they return with a new energy, because the avoidant cannot handle being ignored. It triggers something in them. It forces them to confront their own fear. It forces them to question their own behavior. They begin to realize that their absence has consequences. They begin to realize that you are not just a safety net. They begin to realize that you are a human being with needs, with dignity, with boundaries. They begin to realize that you are not going to be there waiting forever. But some avoidants won't return at all. And that's okay, because that's the point. If they don't return, it's not because you failed. It's because they never intended to stay. It's because they never intended to be the person you needed. It's because they were only ever willing to be the person you could tolerate. And you don't tolerate that. You don't accept that. You don't settle for that. You refuse to be the person who keeps chasing someone who keeps running. When they don't return, you don't spiral. You don't fall apart. You don't chase them into the void. You don't try to make them feel guilty. You don't give them the satisfaction of knowing they still have power over you. You simply move on. You continue your life. You continue building. You continue growing. because you know your worth. You know that someone who disappears and expects you to stay doesn't deserve you. You know that someone who can't handle your boundaries is not someone you should fight for. And that's the thing about avoidance. They don't want a partner. They want a fan. They want someone who will always be there, no matter how much they hurt them. They want someone who will keep chasing, because chasing makes them feel safe. It makes them feel in control. It makes them feel powerful. But when you stop chasing, you stop giving them that power. And that's when the dynamic shifts. That's when you start winning. Then comes the final truth. You're not asking for love. You're demanding respect. Because love without respect is not love. It's just attachment. It's just addiction. It's just a pattern you're stuck in because you don't know how to let go. You're not here to be loved by someone who doesn't value you. You're not here to be treated like an option. You're not here to be someone's emotional convenience. You're here to be chosen. You're here to be respected. You're here to be treated like you matter. Boundary number 5 is the final line. You don't tolerate emotional manipulation. Avoidants use tactics like, I'm just not ready. I need space. You're too intense. I don't want drama. These are not explanations. These are excuses. These are manipulation disguised as honesty. They're trying to make you feel like the problem is you, so they don't have to face the truth. They don't want to be in a real relationship. They want to keep you close enough to feel secure, but far enough to never be responsible. You don't argue. You don't negotiate. You don't debate. You don't beg for understanding, because you already understand. You understand that avoidance is fear. You understand that avoidance is control. You understand that avoidance is a refusal to be seen. You understand that avoidance is a refusal to be committed. You don't need to convince them. You don't need to educate them. You don't need to rescue them. You need to protect yourself. You simply say, I'm not being treated like a priority. Either show up or step out. And you mean it, because the moment you mean it, they feel the power shift. They feel the energy change. They feel the fear. They feel the consequence. They feel the reality that you are not here to be their emotional accessory. You are not here to be their safety net. You are not here to be their backup plan. And when you say that, you don't say it with anger. You don't say it with desperation. You say it with calm certainty. You say it like you're not asking for anything. You're stating a fact, because that's what boundaries are. They are not questions. They are statements. They are declarations of your worth. They are the rules of your life. And if someone cannot follow your rules, they cannot stay in your life. Avoidance will try to manipulate. They will try to guilt you. They will try to make you feel like you're unreasonable. They will try to make you feel like you're overreacting. They will try to make you feel like you're being dramatic. But you don't fall for it. You don't respond to it. You don't let it shake you, because you know what you deserve. You know what you want. You know what you're not willing to tolerate. And you refuse to compromise your peace for someone who refuses to show up. If they step up, you don't punish them. You don't hold their past mistakes over their head. You don't make them prove themselves endlessly. You simply observe their consistency. You watch their actions. You watch their effort. You watch if they actually change, because avoidance can say anything. They can promise anything. They can talk about love and commitment and growth. But words without actions are just words. Actions are what prove they mean it. And if they don't step up, you don't chase, you don't plead, you don't beg, you don't give them another chance to hurt you. You walk away, you protect your heart, you protect your energy, you protect your peace, because you have finally realized that you are not here to be someone's emotional convenience. You are not here to be someone's backup plan. You are not here to be someone's safety net. You are here to be respected. You are here to be valued. You are here to be loved in a way that doesn't require you to beg for it. You are here to be chosen, and if the avoidant cannot choose you, then they don't get to keep you, because boundaries are not punishment. Boundaries are self-respect. Boundaries are the line between love and tolerance. And once you draw that line, once you stand behind it, once you refuse to move, you become unstoppable. When they start testing you, you start winning. When they disappear, you disappear too. When they manipulate, you don't argue. When they avoid, you don't chase. When they refuse to be seen, you refuse to be small. Because you are not asking for love. You are demanding respect, and the moment you demand it, you either get it or you finally let go of the person who never intended to give it. This is the moment they either step up or step out. You set the boundaries, you set the rules. You made it clear that you are not here to be treated like an option, a backup plan, or a safety net. You've shown them that you are not a person who will chase someone who refuses to show up. You've proven that your self-respect is not negotiable. And now the avoidant has one choice: become the partner you deserve, or walk away and prove they never were capable. Because boundaries don't punish the avoidant, they reveal them. Boundaries expose their true intentions. They strip away the fantasy and show you what the relationship really is. When you stop chasing, when you stop waiting, when you stop tolerating emotional distance, you force the avoidant to confront what they've been avoiding the entire time. They either grow, they either step into the relationship like an adult, or they leave, and if they leave, it's not your failure, it's their limitation. It's their inability to handle intimacy. It's their fear wearing a mask of indifference. You don't need them to love you to feel whole. You need someone who respects you enough to stay consistent, to show up and to choose you without making you beg for it. And if they can't do that, then they don't deserve your time, your energy, or your heart. You're not asking for too much. You're asking for the bare minimum of respect. So let them decide. Let them show their true colors. Let them step up and prove they can be the partner you've always known you deserve. Or let them step out and finally release you from the weight of someone who never wanted to carry you. Because in the end, this is not about controlling them. It's about reclaiming your power. It's about refusing to be treated like a backup plan. It's about choosing yourself first. And when you do that, you win no matter what. If they step up, you win because you finally have the relationship you deserve. If they step out, you win because you finally see the truth and walk away from someone who never intended to stay. Either way, the power is back in your hands. And that is the real victory.